Hello everyone, I am Dr. Poonam. Today in this video, I will discuss a novel Inside the Haveli written by Rama Mehta. You can see the book Inside the Haveli. This is a wonderfully interesting account. Women should not miss it, neither shouldn't man. You can see the next pic of the book Inside the Haveli. Now about the novelist. Rama Mehta, she was born in 1923 and died in 1978. Was an Indian sociologist and writer who is remembered above all for her novel Inside the Haveli. Inside the Haveli was published in 1977. Inside the Haveli depicts the conflict between tradition and modern life faced by women belonging to the middle and upper classes. No doubt reflecting the experience of the author herself. The book won the Sahitya Academy Award for English language works in 1979. Now we can look the earlier works of the author. We can include Rama, A Story of India 1966 and The Life of Keshav 1969. Both emphasize the importance of education for boys. Ramu does not appreciate the sacrifices his parents have made for him until he sees their heartfelt disappointment after he misses a day at school in order to go to the fair. Rama Mehta's further works are Critical Essay, The Western Educated Hindu Woman, published in 1970, describes the contrast between women in their 20s at the time of independence who were well educated and spoke English, and their mothers who spoke no English and remained devout Hindus bent on maintaining traditions. Her, the Hindu Divorced Woman, 1975. It was published in 1975, brings out the disadvantages of a woman's acceptance of divorce, which she may well live to regret. Now come to the novel Inside the Haveli. The theme of the novel. We will discuss the theme of the novel, a short story of the novel. I will tell you the short story. Inside the Haveli is an English language novel written by Rama Mehta. For this novel, Mehta was conferred Sahitya Academy Award in 1979. The story of the novel revolved around a young girl from Mumbai, India. She marries a son of a former Indian prince, and post-marriage she relocates to Udaipur, Rajasthan. This is the story of Rajasthan. Rama Mehta was the sociologist and well-known Indian novelist. She pointed out certain pertinent issues through her contribution to the Indian literature that need immediate action and examination. Her renowned work Inside the Haveli, which was published in 1977, also could be entitled as her autobiographical work. The novel has won Sahitya Academy Award in 1979 for its author, as she experienced her life in Udaipur in the same way she tried to depict it in this novel with the help of the protagonist of the novel, Geeta. 2 years ago, when Geeta left her parents' home in Bombay, she did not know that she was leaving behind a way of life in which there was a free mingling of men and women. Her husband Ajay came from an old aristocratic family of Udaipur. Geeta's parents' only doubt seemed to concern Ajay's family, the women of the upper class in Udaipur. Among them, his mother remained in Parda. This was the situation of the family in Udaipur. The in laws of Geeta. Geeta had been differently brought up. She had gone to college and studied with boys. How could such a girl learn to live in the constructed atmosphere of a world of women to give her elders the traditional deference? But they reassured themselves since Ajay, a science professor, was of the new generation, he couldn't possibly believe in the old customs. Her parents' anxiety was not really so much about Geeta's adjustment, but about whether a girl like her would be approved by Ajay's parents. The more orthodox relatives might be afraid of an educated girl and caution them against her, particularly one who not from Udaipur. Because Geeta was not from Udaipur, she was from Bombay. Geeta knew that her mother had worried that she would not spoil everything by talking too much on the day Ajay came to see her. Before the Fiat car that brought Geeta from the railway station to Jeevan Niwas entered the gates of the palace, she was introduced by the maids with different Havelis that belonged to the relatives of Geeta's father-in-law. To Geeta, it had seemed that the whole city belonged to her in-laws. All that Geeta could recollect was that strange women crowded round her till she nearly fainted, each one trying to lift a little of her sari to see her face. She blushed as she remembered one of them saying disappointedly, "She has good strong features, but she is dark. Let us see how she adjusts. After all, she is educated, and on top of that, she is not from Udaipur. What a risk to get an outsider, especially when there is only one son." They were doubtful. As Geeta awkwardly bent down to touch the feet of what seemed to her 100 women, they said, "Look at her. She does not even know how to touch the feet properly." For the first time, Geeta noticed that all the women, young and old, had their faces covered even when no men were in sight. The only women who moved around freely with faces uncovered, she later discovered, were daughters of the family. Geeta dug her feet into the soft pillows and said to herself, "Oh, the lovely luxury of being alone, and to feel secure that no one will burst in to share a bit of gossip." She turned on her back and thought of her life in the Haveli. Even after 2 years, her father-in-law and his father were strangers to her. She had never spoken a word to them. The men, including her husband, seemed to disappear as soon as it was daylight. The whole day they were away in their offices or busy in their section of the house. They came into the interior courtyards only at meal times, though to her they were only names. Their presence was felt everywhere in the Haveli. Nothing was done without consulting them. It was around their desires that the whole routine of the house revolved. A little shiner went through Geeta's body as she thought of the day when she had trespassed into the men's apartments. As Geeta was standing for a while in the richly decorated but austere room, a cold hand touched her shoulder. What are you doing here, all alone? Binniji. It was called Binniji. I know you are an outsider, but it is time you learned your ways. In this section of the Haveli, women come only when properly escorted. Pari's tone was severe. It was Pari. In the first few months of her marriage, Geeta had found the separation of man and women romantic, full of mystery. In her parents' home, men and women talked quite freely. Her mother respected her father but didn't hide behind a secret when his friends were present. But in the Haveli, men were regarded with awe as if they were gods, and yet her mother in law was a force that could not be ignored. The huge Haveli was managed by her. She kept the servants going from morning to night and saw to it that the men were free from household worries. When Geeta first came to her new home, she had no one she could trust. Everyone was waiting to find fault with her, yet if she was to do things right, she needed advice. Her husband was the only one who could have helped her, but she only saw him in the night. The whole day she spent with relatives who only talked of other relatives, and they kept her constantly in fear of making mistakes. Besides, she yearned to talk with someone who could tell her what was happening in the world. Ajay realized her need and occasionally came upstairs on some excuse or the other, but these visits were short and hurried. Geeta was embarrassed by them. One day, Geeta's junior maid Champa came into her room panting. The birth of Vijay Sa was going to be celebrated. So the accountant of the Haveli discussed the matter with the master. The whole community is to be fed. The celebrations will be for 3 full days. They will be exactly as if a son had been born and not a girl. 3 days of ceremonies and feasting, said Geeta, her eyes wide open, full of surprises and fear. During the celebration, the maids will dance and sing, wear their best clothes, and eat as many laddus as they could. Beside this, the servants will get gold and silver also. Geeta tried to take comfort in the hope that her stay in Udaipur was temporary. Her husband was not quite satisfied with the university. They had often discussed the idea of going to Delhi. Geeta felt better as she dwelt on the prospect of leaving the Haveli. In spite of herself, Geeta too had changed. She had lost much of her girlish. Her temper was more seduced, though she still kept a little apart. Geeta had become more and more involved in the routine of the household. She accepted the discipline involved in the routine of the household, and she accepted the discipline of the Haveli without protest. Apart from it, the Hindu divorced woman and the life of Keshav, the Western educated Hindu woman are some other well known books by her. We have been quite acquainted with the scenario that the convention of tradition has a very strong hold over the Indian society and even a stronger hold over its women and their existence. Basically, in our context or country, we find that women have lower place than that of men. In short, it could be entitled as a patriarchal society where only men have power and authority and women cannot make themselves free from it. If they try to do so, then they become target for the conventional society. It might be said that in India tradition woman has been considered as preserver of the family and nothing else. As you see that when we see the character of Gita, the same kind of picture has been depicted in Rama Mehta's Inside the Haveli, which shows the picture of real plight of Rajasthani women who are still attached with the convention of Parda. The setting of the novel is Udaipur, Rajasthan, and the name of the Haveli is Jivan Niwas. Thank you.